Ladies, my fellow mommies, we are always so busy, on the go, kids screaming in the back seat, sleeping babies. I have the ultimate hack for you.
Welcome to the Stay Fit Mom Podcast with Krista and Tracy, your go-to girls for health, fitness, and keeping it real in mom life.
If you can't seem to get in a good groove with your nutrition and exercise program, this is for you.
We've coached thousands of women using macros for over 8 years, and I'm well known around here for my 5-day meal prep videos.
What does a macro balanced meal look like?
Hit subscribe to the Stay Fit Mom Podcast and join us for a fun, meaningful journey toward a healthier, happier you.
You got this, Mom.
We have made it to the episode finale of season 1, and I have been heart beating fast about this episode, I think, for the last few weeks. I don't know about you, Krista, but
A little bit. I think I'm mostly just excited about it, not so much nervous. Are you
good.
nervous about it?
I just have a lot of feelings about it. And I think that a lot of people have a lot of feelings about it. I've shared my hesitations about GLP-1s before. And so I still wrestle with some aspects of them, but I know they've helped people and I know they've helped you, Krista. And so today you get to share your story. And I want to come into this conversation with an open mind and really hear your experience because I know a lot of us will have so many questions.
The only thing I was nervous about initially when we talked about this topic is I was like, well, we're not doctors. We need someone on the episode to explain how exactly this works, what the side effects are. But really, I'm just more excited to share my experience with it, which I think people will appreciate.
Yes, which just brings us to, before we dive in, we do want to be clear that neither of us are doctors. And this is just a conversation based on Krista's personal experience and what we've seen in our coaching practice with clients that we've worked with there. So if you're considering GLP-1 medications like semaglutide, please consult with your healthcare provider to determine what's best for you. Medications can be a powerful tool, but they're just one piece of the puzzle when it comes to long-term health. I'm calling it. I think this will be the most listened to episode of the whole season. I said that on my Instagram stories. I really think that this will be. Let's start with some of our segments.
All right. Let's do the last workout. When's the last time you worked out and what
Yeah.
was it? You go first.
I worked out this morning. I'm healing from the back injury, Krista, that you witnessed. It wrecked my world for so long. I shouldn't say so long. It's been like a month. But in the exercise world, a month-long injury
Yeah.
is kind of a long time. But I'm slowly working out more and more. And today, let me look at let's see here.
I saw you were on your walking pad this morning.
Yes.
I remember when you first started wearing your weighted vest. Where did that trend start?
Okay,
I'm seeing everybody wearing weighted
I
vests.
know. I feel the same. I didn't see everybody wearing it when I first started, and now everyone has caught on to my secret.
Did you learn it somewhere?
Yeah. So I read the book, The Comfort Crisis.
Okay.
And he talks about rucking and how in the military, they wear these rucksacks and how it really does loads for your body composition in terms of if you're in the military and you want to bulk up, this will help somebody that's too puny. I
Yeah.
don't know if that's the right word. Kind of bulk up. And on the reverse, if it's somebody that's too fluffy, it'll help slim them down. So it's like this super tool for getting people in shape and fit. So that's what started me thinking about it. But I've heard so much research about bone density for women and it helps with your posture, so many things. And it's really not that big of a burden. It doesn't feel
Right.
like it's that big of a deal. It's really easy to incorporate into your everyday life. So I'm
Okay.
doing that. But I did have to take a break from the weight vest when I hurt my back.
Yeah.
But now I'm back to wearing it because I'm feeling better. And my workout today was 5 rounds of 12 step-ups to a 24-inch box, 24 sit-ups, 1,000-meter bike erg. So it was easy. I think I'm going to put it on the blog.
I normally walk the mornings before we have a podcast scheduled, but I had a couple other things to come home and work on. So yesterday, I actually went to the gym and did the 10-minute EMOM. Every minute on the minute was 2 power cleans. And you worked up. And then part B was an 8-minute AMRAP, 3 handstand push-ups, but I modified. I love to modify. I know you do too. I modified to push presses, 35-pound dumbbells in each hand. It was 3 push press, 3 power cleans, and then you do 6 push press, 3 it was like 15.1 or something. It was a open WOD.
Mhm.
Yeah, I don't really hardly ever do handstand push-ups anymore just because I feel like I sometimes give myself a stiff neck. It's just not worth it. And B, I just really don't understand how that is a functional movement. I don't ever
I
plan
just
to.
like I feel like they feel so fancy when I do a video of
Yeah.
them doing it, but I did tell Chris is asking me about my back, and I was like, "It feels really good. I feel good." But the thought of doing a handstand push-up
Mhm.
makes me wanna cringe because it's so hard on your back. I mean, if you're doing it right, I'm sure it's not, but because my core strength isn't where it should be, I always have
Uh-huh.
that overextended back position,
Yeah.
so I did say that was on the list of things I'm not gonna be doing anytime soon.
Yeah, I crossed those off my CrossFit list a few years ago.
But I love an EMOM, like that weightlifting EMOM of 2
Yeah.
power cleans every minute. What did you work up to? What's your weight?
I worked up to 140 by 2.
Whoa, girl, that's
It's not my
great.
max or anything. Yeah, I was really happy with that.
140. I feel like the older I get, the more impressed I am with
I
that
mean,
kind of number.
it also kinda sucks because I feel like I'm never setting PRs anymore. So if I
Right.
even come close, I'm like, "Okay." I mean, I think my PR for power clean is 165, and I haven't hit that in a few years. 155 maybe a year or so ago. But yeah, so I'm like 140 by 2 is pretty great.
Has Brett long passed you up?
Oh, yeah, but he goes to the gym with Chad in the morning, so I don't really ever get to work out with him. Not until the home gym is done, which I'm getting really excited about.
Yes. Siege came home just a couple days ago and said, "Mom, I cleaned 180." And I was like,
Oh, wow,
"Well,
yeah.
you're officially a big dog." That's a number I've never seen. That's
Yeah, me
crazy.
either.
But garage gym, your house is so close, Krista, so close.
Yeah, we're hoping end of March, but I'd be happy with any time in April too.
Okay, next thing we're gonna go over, this is the advice question. How do you get your hubby on board? He'll eat dinner made by me, but the rest of the day is crap and no exercise.
That's a hard one. I know a lot of people whose husbands are the same way and they've kind of struggled with it. I feel like my husband's kind of off and on depending on what he has going on. I'm just using my own experience here. Now that he's busy building the house and going to work every morning and comes home late, he's tired and I guess he's still going to the gym early in the morning, but he's struggling and he hasn't necessarily been hitting his macros, but he'll eat what I make for dinner. Sometimes I'll help him with meal prep. If there is something in the fridge for him to take to eat the rest of the day, he'll do it. But if I'm busy and not cooking and helping him, it doesn't always happen. But there's only so much you can do to help them. They ultimately have to want to do it themselves, don't you think?
Yeah. So start with the positives, which is he'll eat what I make. That
Mhm.
I feel like is a huge positive. I've heard of some spouses, they don't even want to eat your healthy food, but Krista's recipes are so good that your husband won't even know that they're macro balanced. So that's a huge win. I feel like if you can get your husband, your family to eat one macro balanced meal, that's a huge win. So celebrate that. And then I love your tip that you just gave, which is pack him up leftovers so that he can reach in, grab whatever's in there. Because it does come down to convenience a lot of the time. And if there's nothing in there, I mean, that's speaking personally too. I'm
Mhm.
way more likely to hit up the drive through if I know I don't have something to eat at home
Right.
that's not already prepared. But then also what you said about you can only do so much
Mhm.
is so, so true. And we have 2 blog posts that I'm gonna link in the show notes for today, but a couple of things. This one's written by Coach Laura, who is so wise, and she said these 4 tips, which is recognize that your journey is yours and you have to stay focused regardless of what other people are doing, regardless of what your spouse is doing. Also, it's a testament to when your spouse sees that what you're doing is working and it's effective, they're probably going to be more likely to join you. Just in general, from personal experience, whenever Chris is doing well with his nutrition, I'm doing better with my nutrition. So
Mhm.
it helps. Like
Yeah.
right now, Chris is doing 75 hard. And I wanted to go buy crumble cookie for the Super Bowl and buy all these cookies for the family. And he was like, I can't eat any of those. I'm not doing that. And so Then I was like, well, I guess I'm not doing it either, which was good for me. I don't
Yeah.
need a dozen crumble cookies, but just little things like that I feel like are helpful. And then the other thing that Laura said that I thought was marriage and relationships are really important. Yes, your food and health is very important, but never at the cost of your marriage and your family,
Right.
which I feel like is kind of advice you wouldn't expect from us because we're so like, just do it. It's so important, but really it's not as important as your marriage.
Right.
So,
Yeah, it just comes back to the same thing. You can't force them into doing it if they don't want to.
right.
Stay positive and invite them on your walks and encourage them to take your healthy dinner leftovers for lunch, and really that's all you can do.
Yeah. And communicate. I think too, what I said about Chris, he communicated his goal to me. So it's easier for me to be supportive. I knew that was a goal for him. I'm not going to run by a crumble cookie and get that because I don't want to sabotage him in that way. Just you communicating what your goals are to your spouse will hopefully reciprocate that same kind of response. If your husband does catch the bug and sees how incredible that you're doing and wants to try this with a coach, we have a program for him and it's called DadBot. And I'll make sure and link that in the show notes as well. All right. What are you cooking this week?
I feel like this week, I was just telling you before we hit record, like I had so many things going on. And we've talked about this before too. You can't do everything. And I have failed to cook dinner for my family this week, which was a bummer. We just were so busy. I was at the house helping paint and helping Ashley pack meal prep bowls. It was just a crazy week. Super Bowl Sunday, though, I cooked a lot. We did jalapeno poppers and we made cream cheese chicken chili. I actually burnt my arm on my Instant Pot. Never done that before. I leaned on it. It was on the ground because, I have no kitchen counter space. And I was doing something and accidentally leaned on it. Burnt my arm.
Oh, that's a bad one, Krista. I can
I
see
know
it.
it didn't blister, but yeah,
Oh,
it's red and
yeah.
sensitive. But that's the last meal I made this week, and it's Thursday.
That's okay. It's fine, Krista. Your family's going to live. They're fending for themselves. You're just growing resilience in them in that way. I am in the make a meal, freeze a meal because we're getting ready to go to the Stay Fit Mom retreat. And I really want to have meals ready for my family because last time I left them, they got snowed in, and Chris texted me,
Oh,
we're almost out of
right.
food. And this time he's busy with this remodel project. There's just no time for him to cook. So they will be starving unless I am proactive about this. So the dump lasagna is so easy to double and freeze. So I'm making 2 dump lasagna. I'm like making one for us to eat now, making one for them to eat when I'm gone. I'm also going to do creamy chicken enchiladas. They love those. That's such a hit and it's an easy one to double and freeze. So those are the 2 that I'm going to try and do. So at least they'll have 3
Yeah.
meals. I'm so tired, Krista. We'll see.
I was gonna say, even just doubling something you're already making is still a lot of extra work.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like you're in there. It doesn't feel that hard to me, but I have to double every recipe, Krista. Every single one,
Already.
pretty much.
So you're quadrupling. Yeah.
No, I know. Okay, it's time to start the episode. So, drum roll. All right. Krista,
Well, last March of 2024, I started using semaglutide in addition to tracking my macros most of the time. It's been a huge help. Yeah, we're here to talk about it today.
we are, but I feel like I got to back it up and say how it came about. I was doing an Insta story about it because I had so many feelings about it.
I think you did a Q&A and someone said, "What are your thoughts on it?" or something.
Yes. Q&A, people asked for my opinion, and my opinions were pretty strong, not for it. I was like, well, this is why I don't think it's the best thing. Chris has been a pharmacist for 12 years. In general, he thinks medications are way overprescribed. And so our family pretty much shies away from all medication to the point where I don't take melatonin because I'm afraid if I take melatonin, then my body's not going to produce melatonin the way that it should. And then I'll have trouble sleeping. I'm kind of a little bit neurotic about some of these things.
It's funny you say that because I feel like my family is the same way. I mean, we never go to the doctor. I never even take antibiotics. Yeah.
So I'm doing this Insta story and I'm explaining this, and Krista messages me right away. And she's like, Tracy, I just started semaglutide. And I was like, oh, Krista. And she's like, I've been so nervous to tell you. And then I instantly was like, what kind of human am I that my BFF is scared to tell me something that's important to her? It just made me do some self-reflection. And I went down the path of, if I had a friend that was struggling with anxiety and she was like, Tracy, I've been doing counseling and I just think I'm going to start taking anxiety medications, would I be like, how dare you? I would not do that. And so I don't know. I guess in my mind, I've had to rectify a few things. And so that's what this episode's going to be about. So, Krista, you've been on semaglutide for almost a year now.
Mhm.
Why'd you decide to keep it private until right now?
I don't know. It's not necessarily that it's some big secret. My family knows about it. Some of my close friends at the gym know about it. I just didn't really feel the need to tell the masses about it online. I think that when you're talking about if your friend came to you about the anxiety thing, it's almost for some reason, women, when it comes to weight or their appearance, people take it so personal for some reason, like somebody else's issue with it or success with it.
Yeah.
And
You automatically insert yourself into the situation. Like, this is not about you, Tracy, but I have just inserted myself into the situation.
right. So I didn't want a bunch of strangers telling me what I should or shouldn't be doing. I actually was thinking about when I was first started tracking macros after having McKenna and I was diagnosed with hypothyroidism, I didn't tell anybody until that blog post, what, a year and a half later? Again, not because it was a secret, it just was something I didn't until I felt like I had something maybe of value to share about it, kinda like now, like I haven't the experience with it. I'm ready to share about it, possibly help people who are thinking about it or who are just curious about it. Just, I don't know, share my experience. I don't want it to be a secret, but I also don't want it to be my whole personality.
Yeah. So, what led you to start using it?
I guess the past 3 or 4 years, I felt like I was just doing everything right. And I'm not gonna say 100% of the time, but most of the time I'm tracking my macros. I'm going to the gym. That has never been a problem for me. I've always loved to exercise. I've always loved health and fitness in general since I was young and taken an interest in it all. But yeah, I was struggling going to the gym and going for a jog. And slowly my weight was creeping up despite doing most of the things right. And I felt like that's how it's been the last 10 years, really. Unless I'm very strictly tracking my macros and in a deficit, it's like I'm either maintaining or I am gaining. At least that's how it felt. And then going on family vacations or Christmas break with at my parents' house, I felt like every time I did that, I was set back so far. I would gain 10 pounds so quickly, and it was so hard to lose those 10 pounds again. So, long story short, I found myself walking around with an extra 15 pounds. And so I'm 5'6" and a half. I'm weighing almost 180 pounds and trying to do CrossFit or just even everyday things, go for a run. And it's difficult. That's still a lot of weight. So I just started seeing semaglutide everywhere, right? All over socials. Of course, when I saw people using it, at first I was like maybe a little judgmental. I think it's natural, maybe a little jealous. And so I don't know. The more I saw it, I listened to some podcasts about it. I grew curious and thought maybe this is something that could help me. So I reached out to a doctor friend and talked to her about it. And she referred me to another doctor who ultimately prescribed it to me and who I check in with every 8 weeks. And that was last March. We were together for some reason last March.
We were doing our business retreat. Yes.
That's right. And what's funny is I remember the subject came up when we were all talking about it. That was right before I was going to start it. And I remember all the negative talk about it. And so, of course, I don't know why there's so much shame in it. And there shouldn't be. But yeah, at that time I had really been thinking about it and then ultimately started, I don't know, a week or two into March.
So, besides external pressure, did you personally have any hesitations before starting?
of course, which is again why I reached out to the doctor and I said, "Is it true? Has this drug been around for a really long time? Are there side effects that I should be worried about?" And had those conversations with them. And yeah, of course, I was a little bit nervous, but ultimately decided that it seemed safe enough and I thought it could possibly help me.
What are some of the side effects that you have experienced? The drug's mechanism of action is that it decreases your appetite. So,
Mhm.
what's that like? Your energy levels, how you feel in your workouts, just your overall well being. Talk about the side effects that you've experienced.
Right. I do want to say that reminds me of your previous question. One of my fears, this might seem a little bit silly, was I would lose my love of food. I feel like I'm a foodie. I create recipes for Stay Fit Mom. I was definitely a little bit concerned. What would that look like if I have no appetite? And also, to me, food is to be enjoyed. So that was a fear. But I haven't really experienced very many side effects. I learned early on. So the first 2 to 3 months were a little rough. I knew that my workouts would be harder and my endurance wouldn't be as great, and it wasn't. I did struggle to hit my macros the first couple of months and get in a groove, especially because you're starting on a super low dose and you're going up every, gosh, I don't know, it was every 4 weeks. And that was hard, and I only really had one experience where I wanna say it was probably Easter weekend, so what, I was 4 weeks in, and we were in Utah with my family, and I've always been a macro hoarder. I love to have big meals in the evening, a big dinner, and then I love a late night snack to program something in, whether it's my protein creamy or whatever. My husband made a steak of some sort, some roast, I can't remember what it was, and we had baked potatoes, and I was so excited, I was hungry, and I ate a meal like I normally would, and I was so sick, like the sickest I've ever been in my life. I was in the bathroom all night, just it all came up. I hate throwing up. So I was pretty much was like, "This will never happen again." And so I've had to learn to space my macros out, to eat smaller meals. I've had to be better about eating before. I don't love breakfast. I've never been a breakfast person, but I have to come home from the gym and right away I know I need to eat. Otherwise, I'm gonna end up trying to get in
Like
more food.
cram it all
So
in. Yeah.
yeah, that's something I've had to learn and make an adjustment for, which isn't a bad thing, spacing out your food.
I remember you telling me this story because that was the other thing is I was so intrigued. Once you told me you were getting on, I was like, I want to know it all. You got to tell me all the details. And you would be so good. You were like, Tracy, I just barfed. You remember me telling me the story and me like,
Yeah,
oh my gosh.
yeah,
But that's the thing about macro counting is that you can bank all your macros for the end of the day. Is that the best thing for your body? Probably not, just in
no,
general. And so I guess that's a good skill to learn trying to evenly spread out your macros versus
right.
hoarding.
And I think so I immediately noticed less inflammation and I wasn't bloated all the time. I was always bloated. To me, I knew I was eating too much at night. That was just a bad habit I had. And so being bloated, I just accepted it. So, yeah, that's been nice. I'm very rarely bloated anymore, which is a really wonderful feeling. And to me, I thought that was normal, but I don't think it's normal.
I was just thinking when you said that your love for food was such a big fear, this comedian came across my TikTok and he's so funny and he made some joke. I am losing weight the American old fashioned way. I'm just getting shots in the thigh. And then he said something like, they don't explain this to you, but I'm going to explain this to you. Now I look at McDonald's like the crazy ex girlfriend. What did I ever see in you before? And I just thought that was so funny, and it kinda made me think like, "Okay, I get it. I get how the drug you were saying, maybe just not have the pull be so
Right.
enticing, I guess."
Well, and one of the things I remember hearing about the drug before starting it was it cuts out the food noise. Like that was a trendy word, the food noise. And I thought, wow, I do think I have food noise. My CrossFit, I'm very active. I'm a hungry girl. I don't trying to eat under 1700 calories in a cup is just so hard for me these days. But that was very intriguing to me and it's very true. I still have the habit sometimes where I sit down at night I love to watch TV at night. I just love the thought of watching a girly show and a snack. And so it's still a habit. Sometimes I think to myself, "Oh, I should get something to eat." But then I'm like, well, I'm not really hungry. There's no voice in my head saying you're hungry. I'm very quickly satisfied. That's another thing that's been so wonderful is I do still have cravings or I want to go eat. I can still go do date nights. It's not like I can't eat a meal. I just can't overindulge. Super Bowl Sunday, we made cookies and old me would have been like, okay, I'm gonna have a cookie. And then I'm like, in my head, I'd be like, don't have another cookie, don't have another cookie. Like, you want another cookie, but you shouldn't have one. And now it's like, I don't have those voices in my head. I have a cookie, I'm good. Or I have half a cookie, I'm satisfied. That's been like such a freeing feeling for sure.
So, one of the biggest deterrents for what I see of why not to take it is a lot of people are losing muscle mass.
Right.
And so, has it been harder for you? One of the things that we talk about with clients that are on the drug is where, like, this is the risk that you're putting yourself in. Your weight loss may be more rapid, but a lot of people, when they come off the drug, they're only gaining back fat. They're not gaining back the muscle that they lost. So, has it been harder to hit your protein goals or your calorie goals while on your medication? So, we just talk about if you're going to take these medicines, you got to make sure that you're also hitting your protein goals, you're exercising, you're doing all these preventative things so that you're not losing muscle, that it is more fat loss. So tell us about that. Has it been hard?
So initially, when I was looking into it and speaking with the doctor about it, you are the ideal client. You know how to eat macro balanced. You're going to eat plenty of protein. He was excited about that because he knew pairing the two together would be the best scenario. And I feel like it has been. But like I said, the first few months were hard because you do lose your appetite. And I can see how people take it too far if you're not aware of, I mean, to still make sure I'm eating plenty of protein and fiber and getting my calories in because I don't want to feel tired and sluggish. Like, that's the worst feeling. So, yeah, like I said, learning to space out my meals and still eat plenty of protein and start my day with protein, that has helped a lot. Anybody who is in too much of a deficit, you're going to lose muscle mass. But I'm still eating 17 to 1800 calories a day, which I don't think is extreme. I think people do go up too high on the dose. I don't know how every doctor does it, but typically you start at a lower dose and it goes up depending on how much weight you need or want to lose. But I got to a point where I was like, I don't want to go up anymore. I know my weight loss isn't extreme. Over the last year, I've only lost 15 pounds. And I got to the point where I was like, I don't want to go up anymore. I want to make sure I'm eating all my macros. So I feel like I'm in a good place. I've been at the same dose for probably 6 months. It probably took me 6 or 7 months that I lost the 15 pounds. And then I've just been maintaining on a lower dose.
I remember that being a big concern for you in the beginning. You didn't mention this, but I remember you saying, I don't wanna drop a bunch of weight fast. Being a nutrition coach, I think you just knew that wasn't the best idea for you. You had said, I remember, "I wanna go on a lower dose so that weight
Mhm.
loss comes off slower."
I consistently weigh 160 now, which isn't my lowest weight ever by any means, but I feel great. I feel normal. I can go to the gym and I'm not struggling to do pull ups and things like I was a year ago.
One thing I've struggled with is wondering if people will feel like they need medication to see success, when we both know that lifestyle changes in themselves are so powerful. So, how do we reconcile that for the woman? I guess this has to do with my thoughts about the easy button or the shortcut. Some people see these medications as a shortcut, and
Right.
you can do so much with lifestyle changes alone.
I think it's just another tool, right? And like I said before, I think it's just really important to pair that tool with macro counting specifically. They just work so well together. I did okay for so long. I can't imagine where I would be now if it hadn't been for finding macros 9 years ago now. And actually, that's something I've always thought about over the last 9 years. Where would I be? How would I be feeling if I wasn't tracking my macros like I am now? I would probably be obese. Macro counting and changing your habits and your lifestyle do take you so far, and the drug is just another tool. Unfortunately, it's not. I don't know if this is something we were going to talk about, is it's not affordable for everybody and it's just not available to everyone.
So you've talked about how it's a tool. What do you think about the long-term plan? You haven't really shared too much about that. So you're coming up on a year, and I think the last time we were together, you said you're getting ready to cycle off. Tell me
Right.
about that.
So I did think I was going to be cycled off. I actually went in for my annual checkup about a month ago, and I told that doctor how I had been on the drug, and he said everything looks fantastic. He was happy with my blood work, and he told me that there's no reason to cycle off the drug. You can stay on the low dose forever. Which in my mind, all I saw were dollar signs. I was like, "Oh, that's crazy." And then when I actually met with the doctor who prescribes me the semaglutide this week, and he said, "No, we don't need to. You're on a low dose, you're maintaining well. We don't need to cycle you off." So, of course, now I'm like, "What do I do?" Like, I have to decide for myself. I don't know. I haven't decided, I suppose. I know that's probably
Okay.
not the answer you're looking for.
Well, from a data point, I would love for you to cycle off just so we could see what happens.
I'm sure I will eventually. I just haven't decided. I feel really good. I feel like the last 2 months, my strength has been great in the gym. I'm able to eat well at all my macros. I've loved the January challenge that we did and the February challenge. That was really helpful for me. And I think that's why I'm feeling better than ever because I was being so strict and consistent with it. And I had a goal to stick to my macros. I feel like these last 2 months, I felt better than ever. My weight has still been the same.
Do you have a fear, though, that by
Of course,
stopping, you would regain it?
of course. And at the end of the day, I've yo-yoed with my weight a little bit over the last 10 years anyway. It wouldn't be the end of the world. When I'm 15 pounds heavier, I'm not depressed about it. It just is what it is. I still am able to do quite a bit. So I think it would be fine. Now, maybe this is the vain part of me that I'm like, "Oh, summer's coming up. Do I really want to cycle off it now and then possibly gain the 15 pounds back by summer?" I don't think that I would gain it back that quickly.
This is a great bridge because here's another personal struggle is that so many women just never feel like they're quite thin enough.
Mhm.
And now with access to these medications, there's potential for them to just I feel like you've got a very healthy mindset in terms of this is not your issue. But
Mhm.
I have seen a lot of women
Yes.
that just wanna get smaller and smaller and smaller. How do you navigate that? How do you know?
Well,
You
I
seem so
also
confident that enough is enough, but how did you get
right.
there?
I don't know if because I have a great doctor that is working with me, he makes me weigh in, he looks at the scale. He is not gonna let me take it to the extreme. I know what you're talking about, these women or men that I see online too, and you know that they're using the drug and that they're looking almost sickly, but it just makes me wonder who is prescribing them these meds and why are they still on them? But like you said, I feel like I've got a pretty healthy mindset with it. I'm 160 and that's not my lowest weight that I've ever been, but I feel great again. I feel myself and I feel like it's enough. I didn't start taking the drug because I wanted to look like a fitness model and amazing in a bikini or anything. I just wanted to get back to me and I did that and now I'm just maintaining.
So just something to consider is your mental health. It seems like it's so hard for women to feel satisfied with their progress, and that's very disheartening as a coach. You'll be working with someone and you'll be like, "Oh my gosh, they've made such huge strides." And they'll look at themselves and still see a different person in the mirror. It's not good enough, and that's
Yeah.
so hard. And I remember interviewing Jenny Galliotto, and one of the things she said was, like, she had macro counted, she had got down to her lowest, and she realized life kinda sucks at my lowest, and I'm okay with being a little bit heavier than
Right.
my lowest.
Mhm.
I felt like that was just so refreshing to hear. You don't
Right.
have to keep
And I feel like I
killing.
have that same mindset. I do have that same mindset for a long time, but like I said, slowly my weight still crept up, and that was my issue with that. What's interesting about my personal experience is nobody's noticed. And maybe that's another thing, like, I haven't taken it to the extreme, or I didn't take it to the extreme because I'm now just maintaining. But yeah, nobody's noticed. I've had one person, was that last week, who said, "You're looking tiny." And I thought, Tiny is never a word that anybody has ever described me, and I'm not tiny. But I think that they just maybe had noticed that I was leaning up. But that was the first time in like a year that anybody has said anything.
One of my good friends, she has been macro counting and she's lost 20 pounds counting
Mhm.
macros. She's not on semaglutide, but she's lost a lot of pounds macro counting. And she's like,
Yeah.
Tracy, I like lost those 20 pounds. Nobody noticed. But then when I kept it off, all of a sudden people are coming up to me and they're asking her, are you taking the weight loss drug?
Oh my gosh.
And it's just interesting to me. It's a wild world we're living in where people,
Automatically assume that you're using.
yeah.
It is interesting too. I mean, that's a whole nother topic. I would never go up to somebody and say, "Oh my gosh, are you using the shot?" I just would never. Of course, I'm suspicious of some people that I see. There are some people in my everyday life that I've seen and I thought, "They've got to be using it, right?" Especially when they lose it so quickly. But I also know that it's none of my business, so I would never ask somebody.
Again, something that helps me rectify in my mind is like, if I saw a friend of mine and she was like in a great mood all the time after really struggling, I'd be like, "Ugh, are you on anxiety meds? You just seem so great."
Right.
I keep coming back to that. And there's definitely something to be said about both being proactive about your lifestyle and getting the resources without medication that you need. And then also, okay, I'm doing all those things and
Mhm.
I'm still really struggling.
I just wish people would be more understanding of it, I guess, and less judgmental, and maybe that's all that will come of this episode, but I don't think anybody using the drug should be, like, ashamed of it. Like I said, it's just another tool. You still should be very diligent with tracking your macros and eating enough. It's
Yeah.
just that's what I think.
So looking back, it sounds like you feel you have made the right decision for yourself by taking it. You don't
I
have
mean, like I said, yeah, I haven't experienced really hardly any side effects, and everything's been great, so no, I wouldn't change anything.
And then what advice do you have for somebody considering taking it? Who do you think it's right for? Who do you think it might not be right for?
I heard a statistic that up to 40% of people could be using this weight loss drug in the next like 10 years or something. And at first I was like, wow, that's a lot of people. But then I thought back when I was in college studying for physical education, over 60% of Americans were obese. And so I just think the benefits of being at a lower weight far outweigh what could possibly come from being obese, how hard it is on your heart and your bones and all your organs. That's everybody's decision to make, but I feel like it can change so many people's lives long before I was even considering using the drug. I do have a sister-in-law who is diabetic. I hadn't seen her in probably 3 months, and then we got together as a family, and she looked like she got her life back, like, she had life in her eyes. It saved her life. She started using I don't know what it's called when it's not semaglutide when you actually have diabetes, but she started using it, and it's helped her lose weight. I just think it can be life-saving for some people, and then for other people, like I said, it's a great tool when paired with macros. That's all it is, it's just a tool.
So, from a coaching perspective, we have clients that are on the drug. We have clients that are taking GLP-1s, and we just want to make sure that we are a support and not a judge. And so, like you were saying, Krista, that hopefully that'll come out of this episode. But one of the things that we've leaned into is just meeting women where they are. And if you're taking the drug and not doing those lifestyle things to support it, they felt significantly worse. We had a client that left Stay Fit Mom, did GLP-1s, and came back while she was on the GLP-1s because she felt so terrible. You just want to make sure you're supporting yourself while you're taking those medications.
We can help you track your macros while also using this tool.
Medication alone shouldn't be the whole answer. Whether it's any type of medicine, anxiety meds, GLP-1s, or anything else, it's so important to pair them with therapy, nutrition, movement, and other lifestyle pieces. No matter what tools you use, the long-term success comes from building habits that support your health beyond just the medication itself. And as we wrap up, we just want to reiterate that this is a personal conversation, not medical advice. So if you're thinking about trying a medication like this, talk with your doctor and make sure you have the right support in place, because no matter what, sustainable health is about more than just a prescription. Any final thoughts, Chris?
I was just going to say, I was so wrong about starting a podcast. I was so nervous and thought it was be one more thing we had to do, which I haven't. Tracy has done everything. I just show up when she tells me to and share my deepest, darkest secrets. Just kidding. But it's been a lot of fun. I've loved it. And I love listening to it, especially the episodes where you interview somebody else. I've just thought they were so great.
Well, it has been a big addition. We went to a business retreat and we were talking about goals that we had for ourselves. And I had said, I think I want to start a podcast. And everybody was like, why? Why would you do that to yourself? Because it is, you just see work in front of you. But the why has always been, I want our community to feel connected to who we are. And I feel like this is just such an easy way. I've become a podcast listener, not just to ours, but others, because I love putting a podcast in my ear when I'm driving. I love it when I'm walking the dogs. I feel like when I'm cooking or doing some mindless activity, I love to pop it in my ear, and it's motivating. And hopefully that's what it's been for you this first season. And we're excited to do more of it with more seasons to come.
Yeah. When is that season 2 going to be here?
Well, the
Fall?
thing I was just thinking, because we're both moms and the summer is so hard. It's so hard to record while our kids are home. So hopefully we can be proactive and start maybe recording some episodes before school gets out and
Yeah.
then launch it again in the fall.
We can play it by ear. If something comes up that we want to do a podcast about, we do it. If
Okay.
not, the fall is a great time to come back on again and go through spring and get another season in.
All right. Well, with that, thanks for being here. And as always, we're here to support you and finding what works best for you. Thanks for listening.
Bye.
We appreciate you tuning in to the Stay Fit Mom podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. Connect with us on social media and head to stayfitmom.com for more resources and tips. You've got this. See you next time.